Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Don Gulling, CEO of Vertex Consulting. Thank you for joining the webinar today. We've got some great content for you and a couple of subject matter experts on how you can boost productivity in the contact center with automation from DVSAnalytics. As you know, a lot of us are in this contact center business, maybe not even deliberately, right? A lot of us came from IT and whatnot, and now we're dealing with all kinds of competing priorities on how to make sure that people who call us are answered quickly, how our team members are given great service, and also how do we deal with, potentially staffing shortages, which we hear constantly now, or turnover, which is another big challenge in the contact center. And how do you make the managers' jobs potentially easier, or even automate some of it, because that management talent is also so hard to acquire and maintain and retain. And DVSAnalytics has solutions kind of for all those problems. So that's why we brought them to the table. DVSAnalytics integrates with Mitel. DVSAnalytics is a Mitel partner. Vertex kind of resells DVSAnalytics. I've been a big fan of it for a long time. We have a great local team here. Art Herold, who's on the call, is a great guy. He's the DVSAnalytics rep for our area. We also have on the call today Keith Hollett, who is a subject matter expert on DVSAnalytics software. He's a system engineer and a real guru on contact centers generally. So I think you're really going to be impressed and pleased and delighted with what you hear today. We don't want to make a big sales pitch. That's not the goal. We do want to let you know at least though what DVSAnalytics does and what it can do for you, and then show you this stuff live, because I think that really the proof is in the pudding there. You got to get that demo. So that's our goal. A couple of little housekeeping items, and then we'll turn it over to Art. We're going to keep a close eye on the chat and the questions windows throughout the webinar to try to keep it as interactive as we possibly can. So I'll keep an eye on that myself, and so will Brittany. And if you post a question either in chat or in questions, we'll do our very best to include it in the webinar. If for some reason we can't cover it live for whatever reason, I guarantee you, we will follow up with you either one-on-one or via email to get you all the information and answers that you need. And lastly, we will record this so that we can post it on our YouTube channel tomorrow or at the latest the day after, so you could share it with colleagues or cohorts if they want to see it and they missed it. So with that said, I do want to turn it over to Art Herold from DVSAnalytics. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Don. Great introduction. Really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this afternoon. Art Herold, RSM for DVSAnalytics, working from my home office here in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm close to hopefully everybody here on the call, and Keith's out at our major location out in Scottsdale, Arizona. So as Don said, when we really want to get you guys to some of the content here, and you can see a live demo, just take a 30-second commercial about who we are. We've been doing this for about 35 years. We're a workforce optimization software development. All of our development and support is done stateside here in the United States. So you've got a team that's been a lot of obviously local experience, global experience as well. We're here for you 24/7. No issues with getting somebody on the phone or no language barrier issues. So a great partner to have here stateside in the United States. Workforce optimization, how do we classify it? So we look at it as 4 major pillars of workforce optimization. Starting from left to right, interaction recording, which you're probably all familiar with, and that's the call and screen capture of an agent interaction with your customers. Moving to the right and further up the value chain, if you will, you're probably also familiar with performance management, quality management interactions, and that's an interaction between your agents and your supervisors, where they're doing evaluations, providing feedback, perhaps assigning some automated coaching and e-learning tools there to make performance better, and giving you tools also to allow for surveys back on how well your agents are doing. There's surveys for your customers, and gamification where you're making it interactive and rewarding for your agents. We're going to focus, so those are the 2 that probably most of you are familiar with if you've got a traditional context and if you've had any experience with WFO. What we're going to focus on today is the enhanced analytics portion, and most specifically speech analytics, and how speech can help automate this performance management function. And then secondly, we're going to get into the workforce management module as well, which can help you to really right-size your contact center. So these 2 pillars right here, enhanced analytics, workforce management, we're going to show you how these tools can really, we have definitive ROIs on these tools and help you really make great business decisions when looking how to improve your contact center. Interaction recording here, again, it's a busy slide, but I just want to point out that The recording itself is not just the content of the recording, but there's a lot of associated metadata and information with that interaction. And from there, we're able to build our analytics engine and provide you much greater insight and reporting into what's happening in your contact center. As you see here, we talked about this agent engagement, this performance optimization, where we have manual tools today to build scorecards here, right? Customize your scorecards where you're able to take an interaction, a phone call, the screen interaction, and provide feedback to your agent on how well they're doing, right? And dashboards, of course, to keep an eye on it, on the overall performance of your contact center. And you see a little happy slide up there, right? With we've got some built-in modules here, e-coaching modules that you can assign to your agents. This is kind of the standard old school way, if you will, of doing quality management. But with today, with all of the information that you're getting out of your call, and remember, back a couple slides, we talked about that metadata. You see, particularly here with speech analytics, we're able to capture all of that conversation, right? We're able to send it up to our speech analytics engine to do transcription of those calls, speech to text transcription, and then from there, take those calls, doing keyword spotting for agent sentiment or for customer sentiment, right? And how well a call is going, whether it's a positive or negative interaction. As you see here, we're able to parse out much more quickly the positive interactions and the negative interactions. And that's really what your agents are probably doing today. They're doing a manual hunting, if you will, or choosing a list of calls right now to listen to and to score manually to get to those negative and positive interactions. But we want to get you there much more quickly to make your supervisors much more efficient. And Keith's going to show you that here in just a minute with the demo. Around speech analytics, what we found in speaking to our customers is that there are 5 great use cases for speech analytics. A lot of people, they say, hey, it's great, I want to get into this. It seems to be the buzzword of the day in the contact center. When you really sit down, you ask the customer what you want to use it for. These are the 5 use cases that we found to be most common. An agent scorecard, which we're going to show you that last slide there, or the last 2 slides, if you will, how to automate that agent scorecard process. Keith's going to walk you through that here in just a moment. Process adherence, making sure that agents are following known and proven and true good processes. Audio file redaction. This is a PCI compliance application here. So if your folks are taking credit cards over the phone, we have an ability through speech analytics to redact that credit card information. Sales effectiveness, how well are your agents if you're in an outbound, or it could be an inbound call center, but how well are your agents if you're in a sales environment, how well are they upselling and cross-selling? And then lastly, voice of the customer, making sure that we're able to quickly get that CSAT and NPS scores increased much more rapidly. So with that being said, I'm going to, Brittany, if you could turn it over to Keith, he's going to fire up the demo on speech analytics. And we're going to show you specifically today, folks, the agent scorecard application. And then when Keith's done with that, we're going to come back and show you, Keith will walk you through a sample ROI on how this can actually work real time in your contact center. So Keith, the floor is yours now.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is the speech analytics engine. And so what this engine does is it takes a recording and it transcribes it to text, and then is able to attribute certain bits of information, components to that. So just very quickly on the dashboard, what we're seeing is an overview. So these are the number of recordings that were transcribed per day over the last month. And what we're seeing here are some basic call statistics for those transcribed recordings. And we're showing these statistics for today, for yesterday, for the last 7-day average, and for the last 30-day. So we're seeing call volume, we're seeing average call duration, average calls per agent. We do speaker separation. So if we're able to record in stereo, it automatically is separated. But if we are recording in mono, then the transcription engine does a pretty good job of separating the agent from the client. And so what we're getting here is agent talk time and client talk time. And because of that separation, we're also able to show positive agent and positive client emotions as part of that emotion trending. And as Art had mentioned, we've got some applications that we have found are very useful to customers, such as the voice of the customer. So this examines the transcriptions for things that the customer has said about the business, competitor mentions, those types of things. We also have a sales effectiveness application. So this could be an upsell, cross-sell. So we're examining the transcription for things that the agent said, or we could be examining for if they're following known good processes within the sales cycle. We also have process adherence. So this follows, examines the transcription to see if agents are following known good processes, or if you have kind of a step-by-step process for what the agent does, we can examine the transcription to see if they're following that process. And then finally, we have Agent Scorecard. Agent Scorecard is the ability to create a score for every individual call and be able to, it helps you determine what recordings, the low scoring recordings, need attention. When it comes to performing a manual evaluation or trying to listen to call recordings, you know, it's fairly hit and miss. You know, you're going to listen to a recording, and maybe you're going to listen to 1 out of every 1,000 recordings, and so your sample volume is fairly low. And so the nice thing with the speech analytics and the Agent Scorecard application is we can now apply this application to 100% of the interactions, and your sample volume is now huge. And so you can see overall trends. You can drill down to individual agents. Now, this scorecard that I'm showing you is a sample scorecard. When we set this up for a customer, we actually modify these applications to be specific to that customer's needs. So once again, this is just a sample. So what we're seeing here is this particular agent scorecard has 4 categories, which are communication skills, compliance, politeness, and customer experience. And what we're seeing down here is the scores for those categories over the last 30 days. So if any of those categories were off, I would see that right away. Over here on the right, we're seeing the subcomponents of a category. So in the case of communication skills, what we're examining these transcriptions for is to see if the agent asked for a call reason, if they exhibited active listening to the call or to the customer, if they were responsive, and if they used positive words. And we can see that my agents are really good at positive words. They're fairly good at asking for a call reason. They could use some work on responsiveness and even active listening. But I can drill down. So if I select active listening here and I scroll down just a little bit, I can start seeing my agents and their scores. And since I clicked on active listening, I have the active listening column here. And I can actually sort by that column. I meant to bring this up to 100 agents. So I've sorted by the active listening. So I can see that these top 8, these first few agents here, you know, they do a really good job at exhibiting active listening. And then I start to come down and I see the agents in the middle, and down below I'm seeing agents that are not exhibiting any active listening skills. And so I haven't listened to a recording, I haven't examined a transcription, but I can already see where I could have room for improvement in my contact center with my agents. Now, if I wanted to drill down into any of these, I could. So if I click on one of my agents, what I get is the transcriptions for that agent. I can see my agent scorecard application here, and it was active listening that we were concerned about, so I can check on that. And now it's giving me just a brief snippet of what we were examining for in active listening, right? So this is part of the conversation.
Hey, Keith.
And if, yes.
Yeah, one of the questions that came up was about, can you go directly into a recording from here? And I think you might get ready to show that, but I just wanted to let you know that was asked.
Yes, you can. So if I chose to enter one of these transcriptions by clicking on the link, this is the transcription. And so what we're seeing is the agent's turn and the client's turn, right? This part that's highlighted, exhibited, active listening. And this is the actual recording here. And so and really the nice part here is if I wanted to start listening to this recording right here, I could just click right there and it actually started playing at that point. So yes, I can listen to the score or listen to the recording right here while I'm examining the transcription. And just remember that these transcriptions, just like you're never going to be able to listen to 100% of your recordings, you're never going to be able to read 100% of the transcriptions. So the whole idea of the speech analytics engine is to allow it to do that for you so that you can find the areas that you need to focus on very quickly. Just one more thing. If I want to, I can actually create a search outside of an application. So I'm back here on the home page and I've got this ability to search. And so I can search on whether either speaker said something, whether the agent said it, the client said it. And we can also send up metadata that we get from the UC platform and that we also have in the recorder, and you can search on those also, such as a phone number as an example. But if I just wanted to search, let's just say for the word happy, what I get is a list of transcriptions where that word was spoken. So I don't have to search for a full phrase. I can certainly search for a full phrase, but I can also search for an individual word. And then I can enter that transcription. And I can see that transcription now. Each transcription has the scores, by the way. So I'm seeing the duration of this call, the silence, 32% silence time. So a third of this call was silence. And you'll see that here in the transcription. As an example here, there was a 3-second silence before the client responded. Also, overtalk, there was 23% overtalk where both parties were talking at the same time. I also have an agent and client voice clarity score, agent gender, client gender, and then the overall emotion for both the agent and the call. And this information is all available to me for each individual recording, but that's how it actually rolls up here to this top call statistics and can be used in an application. Okay. Art, anything else you'd like me to cover?
I see a question here, Keith. Can this interact with an in-house program? I'm not sure what type of in-house program that might be. Don, do you have this is from Christina. Do you have an idea of what type of program she might be referring to? Yeah,
that's a great question, actually. I think what she's possibly looking for is the ability to gather some data from another tool that they're using. Let me do this. Let me unmute you, Christina, if you're willing to do that, and then you can give us some clarity on what it is you'd like. What's your scenario? I just unmuted you. What's your scenario you want to cover, Christina?
Well, where it basically types up the script, we currently have to document every call as they come in, and ultimately this program is already documenting it for us. Would this be something that can transition over to another program?
Sure. So you want to take the call transcriptions that you get out of this tool potentially and put them into your other, like a CRM system, or what's the software you use to do that now?
This is Michelle. We have a program called CTS, Call Tracking System, that's been written with SQL in-house. Okay. And one of the reasons we're asking this is we just went through a federal audit and we kind of got our hands slapped for our documentation of our calls not being thorough enough. So this would actually help us with auditing.
I'm sorry that happened, and I think that is a great question to ask. I'm glad it came up. What do you say, Keith? I mean, in terms of exporting transcriptions and dumping them into, I'm sure obviously it's not in the box, but what do you think about exporting transcriptions and attaching them somewhere else? What's your thoughts on that? Oh, there you go.
Right. So it is possible to download the recording, the JSON data, or the text themselves. But we'd have to have a deeper conversation. This is designed to be done one at a time, right? So I may want this text for a reason, but I believe that there are other ways to do bulk exports. I just off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what that is. So that would be a conversation we would need to have.
Yeah, and in general terms, though, DVSAnalytics does have a professional services and implementation team that does do customization. I know that because we've done that. So potentially, to answer your question, Michelle and Christina, potentially the answer is probably a strong yes. Let's get the right people on the phone to talk about how we can do it programmatically so you're not doing it manually. Kind of worst case scenario, it can be done manually, but with the volume you've got, we want to kind of automate that, right? So last thing I would say is this, in terms of an audit type scenario you mentioned specifically, this could be the documentation, if you follow me. Like, here's our documentation system. I know you do it with CTS now, but you could potentially say we're using this for documentation because it's already there. That might be a business process change internally or whatever, but just want to throw that out there too.
Well, I don't think that would work. This is Christina, because ultimately, as interactions happen with our members, we need to pull up previous interactions.
Okay.
And these are done by reps. Am I correct?
It's by rep.
So if a member calls,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if a member called and I spoke to, Carolyn yesterday and she told me blah, 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 we need to go look at those notes.
Yeah. Well, you can pull up by, we can take, because of the call center, we're taking calls in from a Mitel system into the ECC software. We can take that caller ID field or caller name field or other profile variable, and we can pass that through to DVS as metadata, right? And you can search based on that. So theoretically, like Keith is showing there, the DNIS, which is the 10-digit number, right? We can look at some of those and search on that too, just as an FYI.
Okay.
Yeah, remember this is integrated with the call recording system or the interaction recording. So you can go back and search it. These recordings are searchable by any roughly 35 different metrics, if you will, or types of data. So you can go retrieve that specific call, not just based on the agent name. It could be any number of pieces of metadata to go
call
search.
Profiles, profile variables. Caller ID number. The caller ID name field. We can integrate a lot of that stuff. So. But we'll definitely get you a solid answer on that. I'll follow up with you, and me and Art will take that note about integration and follow up with you on that. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
So before we go to show you the sample ROI for speech analytics, just real quick, I wanted, because you mentioned it, Don, the professional services piece of this. So this application, speech analytics, any one of the modules that Keith just showed you here briefly, it's roughly probably about 2 to 4 weeks before you're having your application customized and getting back real data to you. So, and it's a low 5-figure professional services engagement. This is not going to cost you a lot of money. 6-figure professional services engagement runs months. This is weeks and a very low cost of entry. So very affordable, actionable application for you folks there. And we can show you a sample ROI here real quick if you want to make me back the presenter, Brittany.
Yeah, while that's going on, just audibly to let our attendees know, we've done a couple of these ROIs to show return on investment, and conservatively, we've been able to easily pay for it with savings in staff on the management side, but also an increase in efficiency. If you're the right size, it essentially equates to getting a few agents for free. So great return on investment there.
Right. So what this ROI kind of represents is an example of what it would cost to perform this both in a manual environment and then using speech analytics to enhance that environment. So the example being, how many calls would you like to evaluate? And in a manual environment where you're listening to recordings and completing a scorecard, you're probably evaluating very few, such as probably 10%. And so as an example, maybe that's 1,000 evaluations per month. And it requires about 3,000 hours a year, which is 2 full-time equivalents. at the cost of possibly $120,000. And if you had a desire to evaluate 50%, well, that means you'd need to be, in this example, the customer would need to evaluate 5,000 each month, or 15,000 QA hours per year, which would require 10 full-time equivalents, or $600,000 in salary, right? So the difference is 40%, right? So it's a gain of 40%. So this is your true cost. Because you've been paying the 120, it would be 480 to gain that 40%. So what if we could gain that 40% using speech analytics, right? So that means that at a minimum, we're going to be doing 4,000 evaluations a month. And basically, our agent scorecard application has a cost associated with it. And then there's a cost for the analytics hours, but you put those two costs together for the and the agent scorecard application is a one-time cost, and then the analytics subscription is a recurring cost per month or per year, and that comes out to $28,000 to be able to evaluate those automatically. So you can see that we could evaluate 4 times the evaluations that this person was doing for practically a fourth of the cost. So as you can see, this can become extremely valuable, which makes the first year's ROI on this $452,000 over doing it manually.
Yeah.
Any questions there?
Let me ask you this. I do have a couple questions that popped up, and a couple of clients emailed us ahead of time with something they wanted to ask, which was this idea of evaluations per month, right? The question is, what are you seeing out there in your installed base clients in terms of are there a range of averages or kind of a middle range of what percentage of evaluations are being done? Is it 10% of calls, 5% of calls? Does it depend on industry? Is there any kind of guidelines you can give on what you're seeing about what other folks are doing in terms of their evaluation quantities?
Yeah, to be honest, I believe it's really closer to 5%. It is in the single digits for sure. It's very difficult to be able to evaluate 100% of the calls that occur. So most contact centers are doing the best they can to evaluate each agent a certain number of times per week or per month.
So you're saying that 5%?
That's usually 2 to 3.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had an agent that had 100 calls a day, they want to evaluate 5 calls a day is kind of the idea. That's what you mean?
Actually, it's usually per week. So if they're making 100 calls a day, and they've got 500 for the week, yeah. You're not going to be evaluating that many calls for that agent.
Yeah, exactly. So other ideas on ROI. I know these are the mathematics on the cost of doing one in traditional program versus automating it, right? But also, what about the idea that some of these folks don't have the ability to even add the 8 managers they need or whatever? Like you're talking about this one, they got 2 people doing it. If they wanted to go to 50%, they need 10 people, but they can't get them anyway. So.
Right. Well, the whole idea here being that it would cost me, $480,000 to add 8 people to my staff, but I could easily do that same work for $28,000 for the first year. For the second year, this would be $8,000 because the first year takes into account that there's an application year.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we do not, typically we do not suggest that you replace your current QA staff with speech analytics, because speech analytics is going to help you find the interactions that your QA staff should be focusing on, as opposed to, just grabbing a piece of straw out of a haystack and examining that one piece of straw. We're able to examine all the straw and
Yeah.
tell you which ones you really need to look at.
Yeah, management by exception. We use the automated system and the artificial intelligence and the cloud infrastructure to kind of give us all the bogeys, the ones that we need to go look at. That way we focus our human evaluations on really the either most problematic or the most positive, so that we can manage by those exceptions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now,
You know,
one
because
last
you can learn from your best agents, right? So one of the benefits, let's be positive here. One of the benefits of this is your high-performing agents, your high-scoring agents, you could examine how they handle things and base training on that. You know, this is what our successful people do to be successful. So we need to impart that knowledge on everybody within the organization and help them all be successful.
Yeah. A couple things, and I'd love to kind of make you the presenter again and maybe show this is two last questions. One is a comment so that audience knows. These tools from DVS can be purchased on a subscription basis as just a monthly service fee. So it does make it a little easier instead of thinking about, you know, writing a one-time check up front for everything and then buying it and paying maintenance every year. You can just pay a monthly subscription. For some people, that's better. Some would rather just write a check and be done with it. So you do have that option as a subscription. But in terms of going back to you, Keith, I'd be curious to see in the automation. I know we saw the agent evaluation. Can you show any of the customization, or like, hey, in my industry, we want to look for A, B, or C, or we want to listen for this word or that? Is there anything you can show in there, a use case or an example where they've got some control themselves to enhance the quality management aspect once it's deployed?
Absolutely.
Let's make you presenter again, and then maybe we can show that real quick, and then after that we can move on to workforce management. So while Brittany's doing that, keep in mind, everybody, we're going to keep a close eye on the chat and the questions windows. Want to try to answer whatever we can, so feel free to put questions or chats out there. We'll address them as quickly as possible, and then if we can't, we'll follow up with you, of course, after the fact. So back to you, Keith.
Sure. So very quickly, we actually, as I mentioned, we modify these applications. We work with you to determine what your goals are, what you'd like to extract, and we modify the application to do so. And we actually show you how we do that. And if you care to make modifications or make changes or even develop your own application, you certainly could. And that's what this little gear here does. So if we notice now, these are the four categories that we had talked about earlier up top. I can't move that out of my way, but that's communication skills, compliance, politeness, and customer experience. And under communication skills, these are our call filters, right? Ask for call reason, active listening, responsive, and positive words. And if I click on active listening, look at all these phrases and words that we're looking for. And so basically this is a hit-miss kind of application, right? If the agent were to say any of these phrases, that's a hit in active listening. And, you know, there's a couple of like little tilde 3, tilde 2, tilde 3, those types of things. That means we're looking for those words within two words of each other. Because agents can say things differently or in a different order, or they may put in another word or two. And so that also gives us the flexibility to be able to determine that the agent did say that. And by the way, we can always optimize this. We actually spend some time doing that when we're developing the applications for you. We'll actually go through and listen and examine some of these transcriptions to determine if we're able to catch the different ways that they may be able to say something. Another thing that sometimes comes up is in specific industries, there's words that are not common. And so what could happen with that is the engine would put in the transcript the wrong word. Think about in the medical industry where you're talking about procedures or something like that. Another common thing is a company name. You know, like DVSAnalytics is not a common company name, and so that could be mistranslated. Well, what we can do in the engine is say, we can tell the engine that when you thought you heard this, you actually heard that. And so we can repair some of those things that are caused by those industry standard or industry specific terms that could be mistranslated.
So one of the questions that just came in was can this be customized? And the answer to your question is yes. So if you want to have custom phrases, custom terms, either agent side or customer side, you can. So let me give you a crazy example. A crazy example would be in your industry, if you've got terms that you definitely want to have as kind of red line terms that you don't want to say, or things that you always want to say, you can definitely add those in there. And so it can be customized. Typically, we pull that out during the process of discovery before it's implemented, because this is a voice-enabled application that's customized for you when we deliver it. But then after the fact, once you get it, like Keith said, you can fine-tune it by continuing to add terms and so on as time goes by. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Right. Yeah. An application is not cast in stone. Like I said, we can modify it for you. We teach you how we do it, and you can choose to modify it on your own.
This one of the ones that really caught my eye the most was this idea of sales effectiveness. In terms of sales effectiveness, you already have a pre-built application for that, or is it always customized, or how does that work?
They're all customizable. These we developed these to just be able to show, as an example, some of the things we can do. Because when it comes into a sales environment, the sales process can definitely change from industry to industry and even customer to customer.
Cool. Well, if there's any last questions on this kind of automated part of evaluation, glad to look into that and address it. But we definitely also want to show workforce management. So why don't we pivot to workforce management, and then we'll keep an eye on the Q&A and chat. And if we need to come back to this, we always can.
Keith,
I think Art needed to display again.
Okay, Keith, in the interest of time, why don't we pivot right away to the demo of WFM? And while you're doing that, I'll just explain briefly what it is. We can skip the slides, but we will come back to me to show the ROI for the WFM. So, folks, WFM, workforce management, that's a pillar within WFO where you are taking historical information, call information in your contact center, and creating schedules going forward based on that previous call volume or historical call volume. The whole idea is to right-size your contact center, whereby you're maximizing your most expensive component in your contact center, which is your human capital, right? So how do we maximize the folks that we're using in the contact center? Today, a lot of you are doing it probably with Excel spreadsheets. How are you going to create a schedule, right? But are you really incorporating past information and intelligence into that schedule? Here's a way to help automate that. So Keith, I'm going to let you show them the dashboard or the Encore WFM now.
Sure. So as Art mentioned, the big ticket items when it comes to workforce management is being able to create a forecast for an upcoming time frame based on historical contact data. Being able to create your agent's schedules to meet that forecast or that demand, and agent adherence to their schedule. Those are the three big ticket items. Now, there's all sorts of other fun things around there, like being able to swap shifts and request time off. Those are the like fringe benefits of workforce management. So just so you know, and what we're looking at here is a dashboard. And for Encore WFM, this dashboard is user definable. So this is how I've configured my dashboard. As you can see, there's two, we call these campaigns. This is technical support, and this is patient services. And in this example, the agents that would handle calls for patient services and the agents that would handle calls for technical support are totally different agents. Technical support agents would never take a call for patient services. Patient services agents would never take a technical support call. So I forecast and schedule these two activities separately, just so you know. And so on this dashboard, what we're seeing right now is the blue is my forecast. That was what I forecasted would happen today. Yellow is actual, and this is differential. I could have included other information in this dashboard. The information that I can include, it also includes context cumulative, average handle time, both forecasted, actual, and differential, and my current service level. Right? As you add these, the graphs get a little busier, and I like to keep them simple. By the way, I can also use this widget on my dashboard when I open it like this as a report. I can actually go back in time, and I can show the week so far or a specific week. And it would display whichever data I had selected over here, which I could then, I would see that graph, and then I could choose to export that data. So not only is this the dashboard widget, it's also a report. And if I come over to this tab, I actually have 4 campaigns running on this system, and I can actually see the data for all 4 campaigns. Back here on this tab, I can also see additional information. So as an example, for patient services, I can see my percent of service level, percent calls answered, my call volume, my answered number, my answer service level. I can also see average handle time, contacted forecast. I can see the contact variance, average handle time forecast, and variance. So I got just basically it's the same as a graph. It's just displayed in a table. And then if I scroll down, this is my agent adherence table. It shows me who is in or out of adherence right now. And over here on the left, what I'm seeing is where I am as a scheduler for my campaigns. So as an example, for this week, that campaign, that schedule is published. But for next week, I've created the schedule, but I haven't published it. And for the week after that, I've created the schedule here for contact center, but I haven't created a schedule yet for sales. And then beyond that, I haven't even created forecasts. And these colors that you're seeing here, the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, those follow through that whole process elsewhere in the application also. So when it comes to forecasting, I can forecast for any upcoming time frame. I can forecast for next week, the week after that, next month, a month in next year, a week in next year. I can create a forecast for pretty much any time. So let me select one of my campaigns, and we can look at what a forecast looks like. So this particular campaign, the contact center, is it has 2 phone skills, customer service and member services. And then it also has an email skill and a chat skill, right? So we have chat and we also have email. And when I create a forecast, I create a forecast for all of those. And so what I'm seeing is my forecast for Monday of the selected week. I'm also seeing the forecasted average handle time. Over here on the right, I'm seeing each individual day of the week. So if I click on any of those days, I'm going to see the forecast for those days. So here it is 7 in the morning all the way through 9 at night. I can also adjust these if I want to. So I could, if I wanted to smooth it out, I certainly could. I can also adjust it over here just by clicking on the little edit button and applying it. If I wanted to see my entire week, I can simply just click on the day of that week or click all up here. And when I click all, I'm saying Monday, the total contact volume for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Sunday, same for the average handle time. Over here on the right, I'm seeing full-time equivalents, which is also displayed in a graph. So if I go to required agents, I have a minimum and a maximum on full-time equivalents. And so if my agents are fully cross-trained and can handle all of the skills that are involved in this campaign, On Monday, I would need just over 60 agents. But if my agents were single skilled, I would need a maximum of about 67, right? So I can see that per day also. When I look at instances, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing the instances of forecast I've created. So I actually created 2 separate forecasts for this week. And we're currently looking at the one that's active. And then I can see the source weeks that were selected when I created this forecast. So that's available also. When I create a forecast, let me go forward in time here. So notice I said those colors would come forward. All these green weeks are published. This yellow week means that I've created a schedule, but I haven't published it. This is a forecast, but no schedule, no forecast. So if I wanted to create a forecast for that week, I could select it. I could create that forecast. When I'm creating a forecast, I can create a forecast for all of the skills, or I could just create a forecast for a single skill if I wanted to, right? Or just 2 skills. So I have that option. I give my forecast instant a name so we can differentiate between them. I'm creating a forecast for this highlighted week because that's the one I selected. But I could select an additional week and create a forecast for both those weeks, or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, however many weeks I select. When I click next, these are my source weeks. So we can see that the first 3 weeks of June, I had about 14,000, a little over 14,000 contacts per week, but this week only has 3,000, and that's because this is the week we're currently in, so it's not a full week. If I can also choose any of the weeks out of history when I'm creating a forecast. So I could choose this one and come back and choose this one and this one, since I'm forecasting for a later week in the month, if that's something you desire to do. And I can even go back a previous month and select one of those weeks or 2 of these weeks, as many weeks as I like. I can also weight these. So the weeks closer to me I would probably want those to carry more weight than the weeks farther away. And then when I create the forecast, it's going to create that forecast in that graph format, just like we saw.
While it's doing that, Keith, quick question is about what do either the managers or supervisors, do they see a schedule? Don this day, Keith this day, this time, Brittany needs to be logged in here, logged out there. And are you going to show that?
Yep, that's where I'm headed next. So once I create a schedule, so let's look at a schedule. So once I create a schedule, that's odd. I think I just changed, oh, there we go. I'm coming into patient services. This is the same one. So this is a fairly small contact center. I think I have a larger one in here, but let's just go ahead and use this one. So these are my agent schedules for the day. So as a supervisor, I would see my agent schedules. I can choose the data that gets displayed across the top here. So what we're seeing is the required agents for each 15-minute interval based on the forecast that I created the schedule to, and my over/under. So I needed 8 agents here. I had 8. Here I needed 6, and I'm actually over 2. Here I needed 7, I'm over 1, and then here in the middle of the day, you can see I'm low on agents. I can modify, I can change the data that I see. I meant to point that out. So this is all the data that I can add to the top of the screen. So if I wanted to see my service level, I could add that. And my actual contact volume, I can add that. Whatever I select stays there unless I change it. So my default is as we came in. I can also edit the schedule. So if I wanted, as an example, for this agent to come in a little later, I can do that by just dragging their schedule. I can also insert events into schedules just by right-clicking and adding an activity. So I could add a meeting or something like that. I can also move breaks and lunches. Now,
what about exporting the schedule for view in other ways or delivery via other methods?
Right, you can export the schedule.
Thanks. Yep, there you go.
and
Boom.
it exported it in a
CSV.
CSV.
Yep.
So that is possible, absolutely. When I was going to point out that agents are assigned what's called a schedule template, right? So maybe I have agents that could start as early as 8 and as late as 10, and they're going to work 8 hours. So I create a schedule template that says that, and then within that schedule template, I say their first break is X minutes long. It can start as early as an hour and 15 into the shift and as late as 2.5 hours into the shift, as an example. And then they're going to have a lunch, and it's going to be 30 minutes long, and it can start as early as and as late as, right? And that defines the parameters of what the system can do for a schedule. So agents can have fixed schedules. They can have flex schedules. We also support rotating schedules. So perhaps I have agents that work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on a fixed schedule, and they rotate Friday, Saturday, as an example. Or more, maybe they work Monday through Thursday and rotate every 4th Saturday, right? I can do that too. So we have that ability to create those flexible types of schedules. If I want to create, if I have a schedule that where I've created a forecast, but I haven't created the schedule yet, I can come here, and so I can see that I've got a forecast here, but I haven't created the schedule yet. So if I wanted to create this schedule, I would just click on it and say run the schedule. And in the background, a job starts running to create that schedule. So while that schedule is being created, I can do other things. I can go create forecasts. I can be manipulating an existing schedule. I can be managing my agent's adherence to their schedule, right? And speaking of managing agents' adherence to the schedule, I've come down to the agent adherence here. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing the agent's schedule for today. That's the top bar, right? So when's Christy supposed to come in, when she's supposed to go to break, when she's supposed to go to lunch. I can see that Christy checked in early, but went available a little late. I can see that these agents were checked in and available on time, and these agents were a little late. I can see that Christy was supposed to be in a meeting here, but she was available, so she didn't attend the meeting. Or maybe she did attend the meeting and forgot to put herself in the wrong state. Here I can see that Christy went to break late, and she came back late.
How
Right.
we got you there. How are agents notified of all this, and how do they see it? Are they can you show that or demo or discuss that?
Sure. So agents actually do have their own interface that an agent would log into. So let me see if I can get logged in here. So I'm going to log in as Christy.
And while you're doing that, can you also push them any other communication, like any other notification besides pulling up the app, like emails or whatnot?
I don't understand the question.
Can an agent be sent an email about a shift change or schedule change or text message or SMS or any other method besides pulling up the app?
Not today, but that is something we're working on implementing yet this year. So here is, I logged in as Christy, and Christy, let me zoom this in a little so you guys can actually see it. So this is Christy's schedule for this week. And notice that Monday, Tuesday, we can see that there were no shift swaps available. Here on Thursday, she could request a shift swap, right? That is available to her on those days. If she has made any shift swapped requests, those would show up here as pending, or if there's somebody sent her a request to change, that would show up here under incoming requests. The agents can't ask for time off. So in this system, we allow, Christy's allowed 120 hours off, both this year and next year. She's requested 2 days for a total of 12 hours. Those requests show up down here, so she can see the requests. She can see anything that's scheduled or anything that got canceled. And then she can see a schedule overview. Here in the schedule overview she sees the other agents in her team. That, you know, if I was thinking about requesting a shifts off of someone, I could look here and kind of see who I might request it with. So that gives her that ability also.
Very cool.
So that's the agent dashboard.
I know we're going to be close on time, and I know that you wanted to talk about, you know, potential ROI here. Is there anything in closing on workforce management, Keith, that you feel is, you know, critical to cover before we go to that?
I think the ROI will kind of speak for itself. I think workforce management is definitely beneficial for contact centers, especially if you're managing this in a spreadsheet today.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yep.
So here you go, Keith. There's your palette.
So once again, if someone is using spreadsheets or some manual way of creating agent schedules, these are just modest improvements that we're showing here, basically just 10%. So improved agent optimization to their schedule, right? Because now you have the ability to see if your agents are doing what they're supposed to be doing, as opposed to just looking out on the floor and saying, yeah, everybody appears to be at their desk. Now you actually can tell what state, because we use phone state to see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And typically, once you implement a workforce management system that gives the agent the ability to very easily see their schedule, to request time off, to be able to have shift swap requests, stuff like that, it tends to reduce absenteeism because it's the agent feels more engaged, which, you know, then also can reduce the attrition rate. And so we're just showing modest improvements of about 10% for each one. And based on, this is actually based on an ROI that we did for a healthcare customer. And so based on their agent salaries that they shared with us, we were able to determine that their yearly savings with these modest improvements of 10% came out to, you know, $335,000, and the cost per year for workforce management for them was about just over $34,000 for the year for their agents. So we can see that in the first year we could potentially save them $300,000 by implementing this tool, and that means that this the ROI on this is just under 2 months. So workforce management can definitely help make a more efficient contact center. It helps you schedule, create schedules. One of the things I've experienced many times is when we've implemented workforce management is the customer had a perception of their busiest time of day. And I was at a contact center one time where they were bringing in 8 agents at 6 in the morning. And when we started creating forecasts based on their historical call volume, they only needed 3 agents at 6 in the morning. They actually did not get to 8 until like almost 8 o'clock was the first time that they needed 8 agents. And just think about that. Just, you know, you're paying 6 extra agents or 5 extra agents for, you know, 2.5 hours. And those are the types of things that help in gaining with workforce management, because creating that forecast based on historical call volume can really help you understand where your needs are. So Art, if you'd like to talk to this one, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we're at 3 o'clock, so I'll just close it up real quick. So this is a cloud-based service, which means there's a low cost of entry, right? Not a lot of software to buy and to deploy. No project management needed from your side necessarily to get this application up and running. Secure and reliable, obviously. It's going to be the latest and greatest with patches and updates to it. Burstability, seasonality seems to be a big thing in some call centers, right? Or contact centers, excuse me. So Christmas season, tax season, for example, are times where you want to scale up and scale down. This is a great tool to help you manage that. And of course, I said the auto updates, everything's included as part of a cloud offering. Just one last note, you know, in the era of COVID here, work at home agents being a big deal, adherence has been an issue for a lot of folks. So being able to manage your folks remotely, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be doing it, when they're supposed to be doing it, is another great application here for workforce management. So that's it, 301. And that's all from our end. Don, if you want to close it up.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate all the attendance and involvement. Thanks for all the great questions. We're not going to, put you in any high pressure sales tactics. I'll just say I'll send a brief follow-up email. If you want to take the next step, we'd be glad to collaborate with you to do a custom ROI for your specific environment. Or if it'd be better for you to do a deeper dive one-on-one with some more specifics, we will do that as well. And then lastly, on anyone that asks these questions, I'll make sure we follow up with you personally to make sure you have all the information that you need and we went to the right level of depth. We'll post a copy of this recording on our YouTube channel. We'll send you a link with it if you want to go back and look at it or share it with your teammates. We'll get that up within the next day or so. And we're really grateful for your participation and glad to help any way we can. And good luck, everybody, and have a great week.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.